Hey up everybody, how you doing? How are you doing in lockdown or semi-lockdown or part lockdown or staggered lockdown or whatever facet of lockdown you're currently living in? I hope you're keeping well and keeping happy and keeping upbeat. I'm just on the walk back from the shops to my house. I've got a backpack full of beer, bonus, and pop for Amy, and chocolate for us to have later on. Mintero, Bourneville, Crunchy, or Minstrels, something else. Minstrels, actually, that's quite an interesting one. Minstrels used to be one of my allowed snacks when I was at much earlier stage of my recovery, but I would count them out. So I would have like 5 Minstrels would make up a snack. Man, if that's not utter bullshit, then I don't know what is. Because like, who in their right mind, when you're not totally and utterly controlled by an eating disorder, who counts out the number of Minstrels they're allowed to have, as opposed to just having a packet of Minstrels? I'm pleased to say that because of the journey I've been on, and the challenge repeat, and the full commitment to recovery, and going through those periods of having huge emotional outbursts over Minstrels and chocolate and everything else, I can now eat a packet of Minstrels if I fancy a packet of Minstrels. But there was a time where I used to count them out, and it's quite important, I think, sometimes to make ourselves remember what life used to be like when we were entrenched in our disorder and when we were entrenched by our illness. And then actually that's not what life is. They sell Minstrels in packets for a reason, and that's because a packet is what normal folks just enjoy. You don't have to count them out and have yourself feeling like you're special or important because you have to have only 5. No, you can have 12 packets of Minstrels if that's what you want. Just have what you fancy. And that was supposed to be the theory of today's brief chat. The theme of today's brief chat was supposed to be about giving ourselves a break, having a breather, pausing. And I'm not talking about pausing in our recovery, and I'm not talking about giving ourselves a breather in our recovery. I'm on about giving ourselves a breather as in giving ourselves a break. We have gone through this really challenging and difficult shift in our everyday lives. It's not an end point. You know, people talk about the new normal, but actually I like to see this just as part of the journey. This is just the process that we're on. This happened at this particular point of time in all of our lives at the moment. So this is the journey. It's not being put in here to trip any of us up or to blame us for anything or for any reason other than the fact that this is just when it happened. So what's happening though is that, sorry, I'm just crossing the road, is that we seem to be flooded and filled with things that we should be doing during this tricky period of time. So I don't know about you, but my feed and my Facebook page, and I'm getting constant kind of like flooding of information of I should be spending this time studying or learning a new skill or working out or focusing on an area of my life that hasn't been focused before. Yeah, great. That would be wonderful. Sorry, crossing another road. It'd be great to be able to do that. Yes, it would be great to have that kind of focus and that newfound zest for life. But you know what's also great? Just actually getting up and getting dressed. Brushing your teeth. Putting some random clothes on and then getting on with your day. That's absolutely fine. And that's been my approach to lockdown. My approach to lockdown is that I'm working every day, but I'm working in a totally different context, in a totally different environment that I would never actually choose to do. So it'd be marvellous if I could deal with that plus everything else. But you know what, for me and my well-being, I can't. For my well-being, I get up every day, I get dressed, and I just cope with what's in front of us. But I see it's part of the journey. This isn't me feeling like I have to then badger myself and berate myself and feel guilty for not being able to study or learn a new skill or work out every single day. This is about the fact that actually I'm just grateful for the fact that this time's here, and it's hard and it's horrible and I don't like it and I don't want it to do it anymore and I'm bored shitless of it, but it's here. 2 years ago I may not have been here, you know, with my diagnosis in August 2017, and then, you know, you see me talk about my relapses and all the other things. a few years ago I may not have been here, and I may not have been here because of that horrendous illness, anorexia, because it had such control over me that it was going to kill me. I was gonna be finished. So this is a difficult period of time we're going through, but just like the Minstrels, you don't have to account for it. You don't have to manipulate every single minute of it, and you don't have to be doing something. You just have to be doing. You, if you're listening to this, you're probably in a recovery mindset, or you're probably part of the recovery community. So actually us lot, we need to just keep focusing on our recovery. That's enough. If you've got to work like I've got to work, then you've got to work plus your recovery. But focusing on your recovery is enough. And then really just check in every now and again. Where's your brain going about some of the behaviours that maybe you've battled so hard to break that you've braked? Like my measuring Minstrels. I had an ice lolly earlier. You know, when I was entrenched in my illness, there's no way middle of the day I'd have had just a random ice lolly if it wasn't some part of my plan or my regime for that day. So just give yourself credit where credit's due. What have you done? What have you worked at? What have you managed to tackle and challenge? And then more importantly, think about the fact that every single day you get up, you get dressed, and you're dealing with this crazy world and this crazy situation. But it's not an end point. It's not an end point. It's not something to fear. It's just happening. It's part of the process. And our process is a process of recovery. And from it, once you do recover, once you start to regain it, you get your life back. You stop worrying about counting Minstrels, and tell you what you turn into. You turn into the 40-year-old woman who wears a flowery dress and trainers. Woo! Yes, I am that woman walking along the street in a flowery dress, trainers, and a backpack full of beer. Hey ho, that's what I call living. Live your life. Sod anorexia. Don't focus on the negatives. This is all part of the process. And we can survive. We've survived worse. We can get on with it. I trust you. You trust me. Take care, everyone. Keep well. Bye.